Okay, for some reason, Paul thinks that I am going to slip up in this composting thing, that I am not going to know what to put in the compost, what to put in the garbage. So we have begun a personal, private competition within the competition, if you will. And it starts tomorrow when we officially begin this whole composting kickoff thing. So would you like to explain?
The competition is going to be to see who can find the most compostable material the other person fails to put in the compost. And every time we find up to 3 things that the other person has not put in the compost, we earn a sleep in. And so I'm going to be very careful, and I will look very hard, and I will make sure that I get lots of sleep-ins over the next month.
Not going to happen, because I've got it down. What about the children?
What about the children?
They kind of have a free pass?
No, if children, under our supervision, fail to put something in the compost, that applies to the parent who at the time was supervising. So it's on us to get the kids to put stuff in the compost.
Best of luck, Murphy.
Need some help.
Okay, I'll help you. Let's see. Get ready for the Iggy flies. Are you ready? Oh, gross! This is one of our current problems. So they talk about healthy compost, and I'm pretty sure this is indicative of the unhealthy compost, maybe. I'm pretty sure we're not adding enough brown material, and that's something we're hoping to fix next week at our workshop with Elaine. Is it coincidence, or is it fate? Our composter and our rhubarb. We were asked what we were going to do with our finished compost, and one of the things I'm really looking forward to feeding and nourishing with the compost is the rhubarb. One of the heavy feeders in our garden that would really benefit from some compost. The other...
Water some things?
Yeah, we can water some things in a second.
Oh, what that's a bit dry.
Yeah, it is a bit dry. We'll give it some water. The other thing is our tomatoes. Another really heavy feeder in the garden that would definitely benefit from some nice homegrown compost. So 2 things that are going to be happy. Okay, as many of you know, Paul and I have a little compost challenge of our own, whereupon we have to make sure that everything goes into the proper destination, the compost. Paul is trying to claim a sleep-in this morning because a few things were not in the compost. I declare this unfair, so I will now recreate the situation. You can start. This is the contents of the sink. Now, the situation last night was the compost was in the backyard. So I merely left these few items in the sink until I could put them in the bucket. And Paul says that that doesn't count. I should have gone outside and got the bucket. First sleep in for him. Well, it's on now, Paul. I'm telling you.
Just for the record, Angel's getting upset because things were in the sink, but we specifically talked about this situation before the competition started. And that's why I called her on it. And so I get to sleep in tomorrow.
I specifically don't remember that.
So we've been thinking about what we want to accomplish through the compost challenge. And the first thing is that we want to make sure that we reduce our waste by making sure all of the compostable materials end up in the composter and not the garbage can. The second thing is we want to make sure that all of that material turns into nice compost to help with the growth of our garden and keep our soil rich. And that's hopefully where we're going to get some help from the compost center next week, because right now we have a compost full of vegetables and flies, and it's not working out. So, yeah.
Okay, last week we weighed our garbage and it was just over 35 pounds. We compared that to our daughter Faye, 30 pounds, and our goal was to get below the weight of Faye in our garbage. So here we go at the end of week 1. Weigh in. And woohoo! 28.3. So we have successfully met our goal. So I don't know what we're going to do. We have to set another goal. Less than Nora. by the end of the challenge.
It's actually not a bad idea. She's about 23 pounds or something like that.
Okay, less than Nora. That's,
Okay.
That's our end of the challenge goal.
So Angel went to the compost center on Wednesday to find out how we're doing so far, and I think she learned some interesting things. What have you learned so far about what we're doing right in our composting?
Funny that you say that, because what I learned so far about what we're doing right is nothing. We're doing everything wrong, except for perhaps our location, which is in sun to semi-sun. We have done that right, and I think we've assembled it properly. But other than that, I think when Elaine comes next Wednesday to give us some one-on-one, hands-on technique help, I think she's going to be aghast. So this weekend, my hope is that we spend some time gathering the browns, the carbons that we really need for a successful compost, so we'll be more prepared. We might even restructure that bad boy and see if we can get it not so unproductive and completely the opposite of what Elaine was describing as a healthy compost. So I'm a little nervous, to tell you the truth, because we have not assembled our compost properly in terms of the layering of materials.
I decided my favorite compost.
I would love to see your compost, Faye.
Okay. I just saw.
Yeah.
Watch out, because when you open the compost, there's going to be lots of flies.
Oh, watch out. Ew! Look at all the flies. Gross! Ew!
Yeah.
Do you like all the flies, Faye?
Yes.
What are you doing, Paul?
Our compost is full of flies. We didn't do anything right. So I have to take all of the stuff that we've put in the compost to this point out so that we can put some straw at the bottom. There's a lot of stuff in there. It's going to be pretty gross. And then, yeah, it's going to suck.
Just straw or anything else?
Today, just straw right now. And then we're going to put some more stuff on top, and some leaves, and some more bits of food. But first thing we got to do is get some straw on the bottom. Lots of worms.
Lots of worms.
And tons of wood bugs.
Wood bugs. I saw some ants. So the fauna is definitely enjoying helping
No rats here.
and helping to break down all the things. We haven't had any problems with rodents so far. And Elaine also gave us some additional tips about how to reduce that even more, making sure we dig a well in the center when we're putting kitchen scraps in, and then covering with a layer of browns at the end every single time. So here's a close-up of what Paul has been unearthing in the compost, and you can see it's just crawling with all kinds of little critters. The wood bugs are in there, helping to break down the woody material. You can still see a few of the fruit flies. There are some ants in there. Oh, an earwig. They're all making a pretty happy home in here and are part of the process. So we're happy to see these guys. Okay, so I'm coming out to the car here. What you can see through the window is what I'm after. It is our bag of straw. Save our world. Beautifully painted on there. This is some of the browns that we're going to be adding to our compost. And this is really going to help us to get that nice mix. The other reason why this straw is really important is aeration. So this is going to help the compost get all the oxygen it needs into the bottom layers. And every time we use our handy dandy aerator, we'll be helping to move that oxygen through.
Okay, so we're going to put all of our compost back in on top of the straw. And it's funny, since we've started doing this, a lot of the flies have just disappeared. Like, they're gone since they're out of the open, which is kind of nice. I'm not inhaling them anymore. And we're going to, I think, put 2 to 4 inches of this stuff back down. Are we picking up the corn cobs? Done.
We already said done before. No,
Finished.
That's it for today.
So Nora weighs 22.8 pounds, and our garbage weighs 19.8 pounds. So the garbage is now weighs less than Faye, and it weighs less than Nora. I think we're lucky this week because we got to eat out a couple of times at Grandma and Grandpa's house and at my aunt's house. So because of that, I think we had a bit less garbage. But either way, we're under 20 pounds, which is great, and less than Nora. Anyway, we'll see you next week. Okay, so we just got back from the Compost Center in Sharkare. We went to Sharkare early this morning to pick up a bale of hay, and then we went up to the Compost Center only to find out that hay is not what we needed. So we had to go back down to Sharkare, and we got some straw. So
What's the matter with hay?
Elaine said hay is no good because it goes to seed and can wreck your compost. So we took that back, traded in for some straw. Hey, this is the straw. And we also got in the corner here, Elaine was kind enough to give us some of the leaves from her personal collection. It's not a lot, but it'll get us started and hopefully get our compost going.
Alright, this morning is Operation Compost Redo Take 2. So we have our brown gold, our maple leaves, already nicely broken down. We're going to make sure they're nice and wet. Moist, I should say. We've got our straw to make up another layer of our brown carbons. We've got some freshly mown grass clippings, just hot off the lawn. And then we're going to remix that with the kitchen scraps greens that we've already got in the bin. And hopefully this will be the right combination today. Perfect. So Faye's coming over with her watering can. She's going to help us water the compost.
Okay, it's our third week of composting, and we're going to weigh our garbage. The truck should be here in about half an hour, so we have to do it quick. Faye, can you hit the scale, please? Okay, here we go. On. Don't touch it, don't touch it. And it weighs 28.6 pounds. I think last week we were about 19, so we're up 8 or 9 pounds. But that comes from, I think Elaine has told us that we have to stop throwing all of our kitchen waste in the compost. So a lot of that has now gone back into the garbage until we get our compost under control. So that's why it's a bit more.
Okay, well, it's been a week since we rebuilt the compost. We haven't really looked at it or touched it or added anything to it. So we're going to check it out now and see how it compares. So we ended our last layer with browns, and we're hoping that that's made a difference. So the last time I opened this lid, it was a torrent of fruit flies. And today, there's a few. There's still a few. But pretty drastically reduced. You can still see some of the moisture in the compost. And I think we would be allowed to aerate now. Hey, do you like to go to the dump with Dad? You do? Yeah. Well, the other day Paul and I were talking about childhood or something, and Paul was remembering about going up to the dump with his dad, which Faye takes a trip with her dad every once in a while to go up there when we have odd things, and your memories of the dump will be very different from Faye's memories of the dump.
Yeah, when I was Faye's age or even older, we used to go to the dump. It was a big activity. We'd load all of our garbage, everything, into the truck, and we'd drive up there, and there was a huge pit, a huge hole in the ground, and basically you backed the truck up, you pushed all the garbage out of the back of the truck into the pit, and then you left. and that was it. Now when Faye and I go up there, instead of a pit or a hole, there's a mountain of of fill, and you can't just dump all your garbage in a pile anymore. You have to have everything separated. You have to have your grass separate from your wood, separate from your plastic, from your cardboard, from your trash, and it seems like it's a pretty efficient system now, and I'm sure they're gonna keep improving it. But it's such a wildly different experience going to the dump now than it used to be.
Yeah, but I think part and parcel of that is that it's not efficient because it used to be a pit and now it's a mountain, and the mountain keeps getting bigger. So that all goes back to why we are refining our composting skills so that we help keep that mountain as small as possible. So ever since we began the composting challenge, we've really been sort of keying in on how other people are composting. And while we're working in an urban lot, this is my dad's rooftop garden, and he describes his aesthetic more as abandoned lot. Nonetheless, he's got a bit of a garden going up here in about 2 inches of soil, he says. And he does a lot of composting as well. It's certainly not the way we're doing it in town, because it doesn't need to be contained, it doesn't need to be bug-free, etc. So what he does here is he takes all of his compostables, all of his organics, and puts them in this oak barrel here. And then that gets turned and it fertilizes this little rooftop garden, which is kind of neat. Okay, so what we have here is my dad's second oak barrel, and this is his finished compost. So I guess this is last year's, and Paul's turning it there just to see that, you know, everything's broken down. It's in really nice condition. That's just a mixture of his kitchen scraps and the odd thing that comes out of the garden, and yeah, it looks great. It looks like rich organic material ready to be laid on the garden beds.
It's garbage morning and it's our final weight, and we're going to see how much our garbage weighs. And it weighs 27.4 pounds, which is pretty good. We were lighter last week. Yes, we were. We were lighter last week because, well, a couple of things. Partly, Elaine had us start putting some of our kitchen scraps in the garbage because we had way too much in our compost. So now we're back to putting kitchen scraps in the compost. So we think it'll go back down again. But overall, we're pretty happy with that. I think we reduced it by about 13 pounds or so since the first week, which is great.
So here we go. This time when we take it off,
2 fruit flies.
yeah, virtually no fruit flies.
No, those aren't even fruit flies. I think those are just little bugs.
Okay. And then you can see the straw, a little bit of the fresh grass clippings Paul put in on our, I don't know, must be our 3rd layer now. So overall, what do you think, Paul?
I mean, it's looking way better than it was before. I think Elaine, although, I don't know, it might not be perfect, she would have to be really happy with, yes, the transformation that has taken place from before.
Pull the door up, yeah. So, yeah, you really can. So you can see very clearly our different layers of our compost cake, if you will, and it's neat to see that that's all really compacting down. So I was watching back some of our clips from earlier in the challenge, and I noticed that our children are usually in their pajamas, and I think what that's evident of, because we do get them dressed, is that Paul and I are up early in the morning every day. And what that's evident of, girls, ta-ta, is that we haven't been getting any sleep-ins. I've tried and I've tried and I've tried to catch Paul putting compostables in the garbage, but the truth is, it's a really easy system to adopt, and yeah, we couldn't beat each other. Composting is too easy to just incorporate into your life, and unfortunately for me, I haven't been getting any sleep-ins around here. Good for the earth, bad for me. This is probably our final sign-off, and we just wanted to express our appreciation for being part of the project and just reflect on how fun it's actually been. It was quite enjoyable to have people come up and say, hey, how's the composting going? I saw you in the paper, and we'd have a little chat, and we've had a great time doing it with our kids and had lots of fun filming, and we checked out there yesterday and it's all happening. The magic of compost is going, and I think it'll be probably a part of our family life for a long time to come. So thanks for the challenge, thanks for the compost, and thanks for the experience.
Thanks for the compost, Campbell River.